So happy to have you on here. Ladies and gentlemen who you're listening to the podcast, we're here with Nagina Abdullah from masalabody.com. And we've already been talking before this podcast about how websites take a long time to build and so forth. And I think we got a lot of similarities and looking about health in the long-term perspective. So like Nagina, I know you lost 40 pounds after having two kids and you were working 70 plus hour weeks. That sounds absolutely crazy. How'd you find the time to do this?
Oh my gosh. Well, I am so excited to be here, Jared. So thank you for having me. And I know our conversation is going to be so valuable for so many people. Um, when I lost 40 pounds, I didn't even know that that was possible for me. I had actually struggled with my weight for my entire life. And I had tried every single diet on the books. Like I had done Weight Watchers, I had done um, Jenny Craig, I had done South Beach, Atkins, everything. I'd done everything. And I would lose like 5 to 10 pounds and then I would gain 10 to 15 pounds. And I was at a point at my life where I had just recently had two children. And I was also working as a management consultant, which was a very demanding career. And I was traveling 60 plus hours and working 60 plus hours a week and traveling multiple days of every week. And I just didn't have the time to go to the gym for 45 minutes a day or an hour and a half a day. And I did not have the desire to lose only 10 pounds and then put 15 back on and go through that struggle for the rest of my life like I'd already been doing, because now I was in a new stage where I had less time on my hands. And so what I did is I started researching so much scientific information and reading medical journals, because I have a background in molecular and cell biology. That's my undergrad degree. And so I was very I like to understand the science behind things. And I just was done with just listening to all the things the weight loss industry had put out there because they'd never worked for me. And so I started reading scientific journals and I found out that there was these foods that you could start eating and adding versus looking at restricting and not eating.
Mm.
And so I started adding certain foods and I started flavoring my food so they tasted delicious. And I started boosting my metabolism with a lot of the foods that I was eating. And this is really, really surprising. I had 20 pounds to lose. That was my goal, to get to my pre-pregnancy weight. And I lost the 20 pounds in 3 months, which had never happened to me ever in my life before. And while I was losing it, I felt like I was eating delicious gourmet foods that were so easy for me to eat. I was still working this demanding job and I was able to do that. And then I kept eating like that because it was more of a lifestyle at that point. And I went on to lose 40 pounds in 9 months just from changing what I was eating. And I started loving what I was eating. And now it's been 9 years since that 40 pounds has come off, and that 40 pounds has stayed off. And now I've gotten more toned and more fit than I ever have. Now in my 40s, I'm more in shape than I was in my 20s. And it's something that's possible for everyone when you start looking at food differently and you start stopping dieting and actually creating a healthy lifestyle. And that was really the major shift.
Oh yeah, I love it. How it's all about like your relationship to food. If you're restricting and that just doesn't work, and if you shift your relationship with food, then you can see like incredible results that might have not been there for you for years before. What do you mean? Like, what's the problem with weight loss industry in a nutshell? Like, what are their programs? And I think you mentioned it, restriction, but what's up with that?
Yes, absolutely. So like we only learn, I mean, it's so ingrained in us that it's like so hard to fight it, that we learn that we are not allowed to do so many things. And we're not allowed to enjoy the foods we want. We're not allowed to have pizza and chocolate chip cookies and ice cream. You're not allowed. And if you do it, you are off the wagon, which is the diet term, right? Like we know that term, off the
Mhm.
wagon. You're off the wagon if you have eaten a chocolate chip cookie. And then what happens is that when you get off the wagon, you're like, oh, I ate a chocolate chip cookie and some snacks as my afternoon snack. I ate some chips and a cookie. You know what? Forget about it. My whole day, it's already done. I might as well just eat grilled cheese and have pizza and have ice cream after that because I already messed up before. So it's like that all or nothing mentality of, if I go against the rules, I'm already off. I'm already a fail. I'm already failing. So I might as well just keep failing. And when you look at it differently, as like, oh, I had a chocolate chip cookie because I needed it at the moment, and now I'm going to start making healthier choices for the rest of my day, then you start to think of, you don't think about food as a restrictive thing. You actually think of it as something that energizes you and makes you feel really good. So
Mm.
when you actually eat your healthy meal, you feel incredible. You feel amazing. You feel so energetic. And you don't want to take that away from yourself by eating something that's going to be so heavy. And that will also, it will also make you gain weight, but in the moment it will give you this feeling of heaviness and of being tired. So when you start looking at food as something that energizes you and makes you feel great, you look at healthy options, you want to feel so good, and you also give yourself that leeway to have those sugary sweets if you have the urge. And over time, you start to realize that starts to go away slowly and slowly as you start giving yourself more of the really good foods. So it's really moving away from restriction.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I think I read a paper, and you probably did as well, but one of the papers I read was that all or nothing thing, when you break a little rule and then you're like, F it. I heard that this was actually scientifically called like the quote unquote what the hell effect, like what dash the dash. I thought that was so great. Like, what the hell? Why not? Like, but this was measured. Like, this was repeated. This is studied by many scientists at different universities, and that like if people are under these strict rules, then these little slip ups end up like causing an avalanche of eating afterwards, because it's like, oh well, I already screwed up, let me restart tomorrow. Like some of these rules are so arbitrary, like the like tomorrow, like what, so you're screwed up for the next 12 hours and everything's off limits for 12 hours, but then like the next morning like it's good. Like where did that come from? You know what I mean? Like these arbitrary
So
rules
true.
that like
So
whatever, like
true. Yes, it's like, okay, if I wait for 12 hours, then it's okay. Exactly. I know it's, but why is that? Why not
yeah,
just like right now, and just be okay
yeah,
with what you did? That's okay. You're a human. There's cookies and sweets all around us, whatever your craving may be. There's those things all around us in this world. It's going to happen. We don't live in a bubble where there's only healthy food and like fresh vegetables all
yeah,
around us. We just
yeah,
don't
yeah.
live like
I know.
that.
What like this is too probably a too meta question, but where do those rules come from? Like just like any ideas? Like I don't know, just off the top of your head.
They literally they are taught to us. This is not how we have to think. It's clear. It's definitely a mindset in that we've been trained to think of. Because if you just go even now to any grocery shopping line and look at any of the magazines, all of them are like lose 20 pounds in 7 days and
Yeah.
learn how to trim your fat. It's like in 7 days or something. It's all about doing things quickly. Hurry up and do it. And then if and like of course when you're on a sprint to do it, then you have that pressure. But when you actually open it up and say, this doesn't have to be about me like losing 10 pounds in 2 weeks. This is about me losing the weight and also living in this dream body for the rest of my life. It's actually changing that. And guess what? When you're paying for a weight loss program, they want you to pay money to them so that you pay for them in this confined amount of time. And that's the services that they give you. And so as a result, like they want you to keep coming back. They want you to keep doing it. It's like their business model. It's
Ugh,
flawed to begin with. It's creating people that are constantly going on and off this wagon on the diet culture, because guess what? If you get off, you don't need their help anymore. And that's
yeah.
that's unfortunate, because you can actually not think of it as on the wagon or off the wagon. You can think of it like, I'm enjoying this piece of chocolate cake, and now I'm going to have this amazing high protein, high vegetable dinner because I love it and I'm making it taste good. And you
Yeah.
choose it. You're not forced to eat it. So,
Totally. No, totally. I love it. How did you make that shift? Like, or like what, how did you start listening more to your body?
oh, okay. So for me, a lot of it started because I did have the goal that I was in a place where I was at a maximum weight in my life. And at that moment, I did not feel comfortable in my body. I felt low energy. I could not fit into any of the clothes in my closet. And as a result of all these things, I actually had a really low confidence in myself. Like I would look at myself in the mirror and I would think, how did I get here? Like what happened? How do I get out? What do I do? How do I choose that? And so as a result of that, I just decided I absolutely have to make a change. I have to lose this weight. I can't do it in all the ways I've done it before because those
Yeah.
never worked for me. And so, really, what happened for me is that there was a transition that helped me understand how food could treat me so well and that it could make me feel so good. But that transition included me making healthy food taste good. And that was
Interesting.
really important for me because, yes, I was like what you consider a foodie. Like, I loved eating great food. I loved going to restaurants. I also love cooking. And so the foods that I knew how to cook usually were, foods that had lots of high sugar sauces or lots of oils and lots of butters. And that was where the flavor came from. And I started switching those things with adding lots of metabolism boosting spices, like things like garlic and cinnamon to my coffee instead of sugar. I started adding cumin and turmeric, which is anti-inflammatory. And I started using these spices. And so every day when I would eat my meals, which would be like vegetables that tasted incredible, like I would have turmeric and cumin seed cauliflower. And then I would have lentils that had ginger and garlic and cayenne pepper. And I would eat like that. And I would be like, I feel like I'm a queen. Like I feel like I'm at the best restaurant in this city. And meanwhile, I was watching my scale drop down. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm not eating foods that are like grilled chicken breast and broccoli every day. Like I'm eating foods that are incredible and that I'm loving and actually craving. And so as a result of me, like I always had a relationship with me wanting food that I liked, but when I made the good
Mm.
food things that I liked, then I started to start in that direction. And then as a result of that, I started realizing how good those kinds of foods were making me feel. And how if I didn't have them, I would start craving all these sugary items and then I would start feeling tired again. And
Okay.
so it was this transition to eating food that was very flavorful, which then gave me energy. And now, I do eat my foods like that, but sometimes I make simpler foods because I actually just love the foods now. So those that help me transition to eating
Interesting.
healthier foods. Yeah.
Interesting. Like it wasn't seeing like vegetables as unhealthy or as bad tasting, right? So many people are like, "Oh, vegetables, I got to eat more vegetables," but I don't like the taste of that. It was kind of like
Hmm.
getting out of that black and white way of seeing certain foods and being like, "Hey, there's an in between ground of I can eat cinnamon and like spice it up a little bit."
Yes, that's so true. I love the way you said it. Exactly. That's exactly what it was. There was this in between way, and it wasn't about restriction. It was actually more about indulgence. It was the opposite of restriction. It was like I was indulging myself every day, but I was doing it in a way that I was breaking the rules of losing weight, which was I was actually enjoying everything I was eating. I was feeling full and satisfied every moment, and I was watching my stomach fat disappear. I was watching
When
my
you
back
first
fat
started
go
like
away.
when you first started like experimenting in the kitchen or wherever, like how did you do that? You're like, all right, I'm gonna make this taste really good. Like did you just have all these spices that in the back of your mind you knew that were like gonna be amazing, or were you like, hey, let me try like garlic and or like let me try cinnamon and or were you reading about this, or like how did you kind of make how did you start spicing things up?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's such a great question. I love this question. It's like, yeah, how did I start thinking about that? Well, the first thing I did is I learned about these foods from reading all the scientific journals and
Yeah.
medical journals. And I learned that foods that were high protein and that were also healthy carbs. So things like lentils and beans they're carbs, they're high protein carbs, but they're carbs and they digest more slowly and they don't cause the fat storage that you would get by eating quicker burning carbs. And so I learned basically the foods that I
Mm,
should be integrating into my diet to make this more of make it so I'm not feeling restricted and I would
mm.
feel full and satisfied.
Mhm.
And so I learned those. And then I grew up in a traditional Indian family where we used spices in our cooking, but usually it was combined with like high sugar or high fat or fried style foods. There was some trying to lighten it up a little bit as we got older, but that was really where the flavor came from. It was like all the butter
Interesting.
and all the oil. And so I had learned to cook when I was
Nice.
16 for my mom. And so what I did is I started by understanding those ingredients that were very similar to the ingredients I had grown up with. And then I started adding the spices that I knew about. And what happened is like the food started tasting so good and my weight came off so quickly. And it came off in those certain places that seemed like the problem areas, like your stomach or your arms or wherever your problem area, like wherever everyone's problem areas is, my problem areas, they came off right away. And so, and then I started studying the spices and I didn't know that they were so metabolism boosting. And what I found out later, because I put everything together, I'm like, why is this working so fast? Like, this is awesome. What is going on here? So I started reading about it and I saw that there were so many benefits. Like, for example, if you just use cinnamon in your coffee, and if you like sugar, you can have a little sugar, or it actually replaces the taste of sweet, so you don't need sugar. And so as a result, your insulin doesn't spike. Yep. And
Interesting.
so and so then you start coming off of sugar, and just that one little tiny change can cause such a shift, and it's just something so simple to do. And so I started, and your blood sugar is lowered as you're adding more cinnamon. And so I started learning these things, like that a lot of spices, like for example, turmeric lowers your inflammation, so it lowers the puffiness in your face and it lowers the bloating in your belly. And then I put everything together. I'm like, this is a big part of the reason that this weight has come off when it never came off ever
Interesting.
before.
I love hearing that. Like you took like the science stuff. I love science, but I also love like the connection to your childhood. Putting two and
Mm-hmm.
two together. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's when people they'll shift somehow when the science becomes meaningful and they're able to connect like a lot of different dots. You mentioned like these strategies of adding cinnamon and to your coffee instead of sugar, which I'm like wow, that's a good idea. Like I never thought about that. Seriously, like kind of like a just a little hack, but kind of makes sense. You mentioned like taking beans and learning about these other foods. Like, what are like other strategies? This kind of off the top of your head. You mentioned like do you teach stress reduction? Maybe not. Maybe it's all food. I think you've been talking a lot about food. What are like food strategies? What are other strategies you use to
Yeah.
teach women about get off sugar and all this different stuff?
Yeah. So so I help. I do focus on food because what I found is that food is 80, or what the science says, and what I've personally seen is that food is 80% of weight loss. And when you focus on the big wins, like you're going to get 80% of the way there. And then when you're there, or while you're getting there, you can layer on exercise, you can layer on sleep, you can layer. I mean, those are all things you definitely want to do, but like we have to prioritize so that we're doing the right things. And so of course we want to do all those things, and it's great if you can. But when you're focusing on food and getting that right and getting into a structure, you are going to keep your weight off and live in your dream body forever. And you're going to love it. You're going to love every moment. So I would love to share, Jared, my metabolism boosting morning routine with you,
Yeah, I was
which
just
is
thinking about that.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So this is a great routine to get into in the morning because it's very simple. It's very doable, but it's very powerful and extremely metabolism boosting. And so you're eating anyway, so you might as well add these few things to get some metabolism boost to your morning and also feel indulgent. Like I was explaining, it's
Yeah.
about feeling indulgent, and but getting like women could easily lose between 2 and 4 pounds in the first week of doing this, and it's absolutely not about restriction. And also men can lose weight with this too. I mean, it's beyond losing weight, it's like a way to treat yourself, that you feel
Yeah.
good in what you're giving yourself. And
Yeah.
so the metabolism boosting morning, it has 4 moments. And the first moment is to wake up and have a infused debloating water. And an infused debloating water is something like, preferably, you would have filled a jug of water up the night before and cut about 2 to 3 lemons and put 2 to 3 lemons in that. And so overnight it infuses. And so what happens is that lemon, it gives you 30% of your daily vitamin C, which is really important, especially right now, to keep our immune systems higher. And it also helps detoxify your body. And so you have that lemon water. Now you could also add a few things to that infused water, which boost your metabolism even more. There's three things I'll share that are optional. One is mint. So when you add mint to your water, the scent of it helps you decrease sugar cravings. It helps you decrease overeating. And so you could put mint in that water. You could also, or instead, put cucumber, and cucumber decreases water retention. And so because it has so much water in it, it's flushing out the water from your body that has like toxins, or it's flushing out sodium from your body that you may have gotten from eating other foods. And then the third is cayenne pepper, and cayenne pepper literally increases your metabolism, and it also reduces your appetite. And so if you're going to do cayenne pepper, you could also sprinkle it in like right in the morning if you want to, instead of having it in the infused water. So you could do just lemon water, or you could do one or all of these additions. And so you wake up in the morning and you have your glass of water, you're hydrating your body, which is overall the most important thing that you're doing out of all of these things. You're hydrating, you're getting into that routine, and then you're feeling incredible. You're like, oh my God, I'm already treating my body so well. Let me keep doing this. And so then the second moment is for those of us that do have caffeine in our morning, is to have your coffee. Yep, you, Jared. Oh yeah, me too. I live by my morning coffee. It's my highlight of my morning.
I love it. I want to hear these. I want to hear what you got to say about coffee.
Okay, so for coffee, it's really adding that cinnamon in your coffee or your tea, because with the cinnamon, you're lowering your blood sugar. What that means is that you're storing less fat when you are eating like any kinds of sugars that may come naturally, even. And then you're also, if you're someone that likes sugar in your coffee or tea, you're transitioning away from sugar and using cinnamon, which is a natural spice that does not spike your insulin. So it's like a really great exchange. So you put that cinnamon in your coffee or tea. And then the third moment is to have what I call a protein more breakfast. And this is extremely important so that when you have more protein in your breakfast, you are keeping yourself full for longer. You're increasing your metabolism because you're giving your body what it needs to actually burn fat. Like if you're not giving your body enough protein, it's really hard to get your metabolism going. There's a lot of other like things that are unnatural that you could do, but protein is a natural way to amp up your metabolism. And it's one of the things that could be overlooked in breakfast very, very often. And a lot of times we often go to like sweet breakfast or high carb breakfast. And so what I recommend is, yes, you have some of those things if you want them, but add that protein to your breakfast. So do something like a protein breakfast with a side of low sugar fruit, which are something like berries or a tangerine, or a breakfast salad or greens in your morning. So
what do you do what do you have?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have my regular breakfast, which I love. So I do 2 eggs and 2 egg whites. And the reason I do that is because 2 egg whites offers more protein without the added egg. 2 eggs is what you need for your daily cholesterol limits. If you go over that, it starts to become higher. But 2 eggs gives you that healthy fat also that is keeping you full. So 2 eggs, 2 egg whites, but I also saute it with onions and mushrooms because it tastes really good. It's also good for digestion. And then on the side, I have a really amazing breakfast salad that I love to have every day. It's basically baby spinach leaves that I buy already, I just grab it from the box, put it on. I chop up 2 strawberries. I put a handful of walnuts, and then I put balsamic vinegar on top. And balsamic vinegar is a low sugar dressing versus like the typical dressings that are really high in sugar and really high in fat. And then you're kind of like, you're just making your salad not as healthy as it could have been. And so this is like actually an amazing breakfast. And I put some nice hot sauce on it. And the hot sauce I use is called Secret Aardvark. It's from Amazon, and it's a low sugar hot sauce. And so nice. I'm getting the spices and the strawberries and the protein, and I'm indulging in my breakfast. And meanwhile, my stomach is staying flat. And that's important to me. I just like that. And I like that. I like my core to be strong. And so, and then I'm not full all the way until lunch with this breakfast.
For sure.
And then the fourth one, yes, I want to make sure to tell you this one, yes. So the fourth moment of the metabolism boosting morning routine is an anti-inflammatory boost. And what this is, I'll tell you exactly some options for this. But the reason for this is because when you are adding foods that give you anti-inflammation, that's where you're decreasing that puffiness from your face and the bloating from your belly or from other areas. And so I usually do the anti-inflammatory boost as part of the breakfast. And so, like spinach is anti-inflammatory, blueberries are anti-inflammatory, and another thing that's really great for anti-inflammation is turmeric. And like if you're eating eggs, you could put half a teaspoon with your eggs, and I do that. And so turmeric is a golden yellow color, and a lot of times we're not sure how to use it. But if you add a half
Mm.
teaspoon to your eggs, it combines with your eggs. It's not spicy.
Hmm.
It's totally mild. It has a slightly earthy flavor, and you probably won't even realize that it's in your eggs.
Huh.
And so it's a really perfect way to get that anti-inflammation into your morning. And then you've had your moment, you've had your morning, you've had the 4 moments, and then you don't think about food until lunchtime because you're so satisfied.
Yeah,
So
I love the approach how you're talking about indulgence. I feel where you're coming from. I think that's so important that this stuff makes you feel good, as you mentioned in the very beginning. It's just so important that we come from like that relationship. Like you have your moment with food. I like that phrase in the morning.
yes, you
What
have your
about like
moment.
the time? Like, what about? I mean, 70+ hour a week, two kids. Like, okay, sure, you have breakfast. That's your moment. How do you like stay motivated? Not just throughout the day, but like throughout the entire journey, especially for, let's say, someone in a similar position.
Yeah, that's such a good question. Well, so this is a thing. I actually take motivation out of it. And because there's actually many studies that show, and this is very, very true it's true for me, where there's these things called momentum waves, where you're very motivated for a while. You're like motivated to lose weight or motivated to get healthy because something may be coming up or you're just done with it. But
Mhm.
so you have this wave where you go up like in motivation, and then something happens, life happens, there's an emergency, the power goes out, there's a trip that you go on,
Mhm.
your child gets sick, and you just don't have time to stay motivated. And so it gets pushed to the back. And it's not because it's not important to you, it is important to you, but it's because you don't have the time to think about it at that moment. And so what a better approach is to use these momentum waves to your advantage. And when you do feel motivated, set up systems in your life that become mindless, that you don't have to think about. And then when you do get not as motivated, which will happen to every single person, so it's just like, let's expect that to not happen to us. You have a structure and you have a way of living that is absolutely mindless that you're not thinking about. So, for example, my breakfast is something I don't think about. I don't think every day, what am I going to eat today? I already know I have my breakfast. I love it. It keeps me full. I also have some easier options. If I don't have time to make those eggs, I have like egg muffins, or I make a smoothie that has everything in it. And like for my lunch and dinner, I prepare things that are very simple. Like on Monday, I bake a salmon and asparagus, and on a sheet, it's like a pan sheet meal, or one sheet meal type of thing. And I just put it in the oven. It cooks for 20 minutes, and then I have my salmon that I store for 4 days in a glass container, which helps it stay fresh. And I have my veggies already there, so I love my lunch. I love my lunch. And then for dinner, I do something similar, not like I make sure I have my protein, my vegetables, and I try to prep things ahead of time. And it's an extreme priority to me that I do these things. It's the number one priority. In fact, as a mother, I actually put my eating in front of my children and in front of everything else in my life. And it's that important to me. And
Oh,
I put myself first. I put my eating and myself first, because if
oh,
I don't
such a
do
good
that,
mindset.
who's going to, thank you. Yeah. And it's like, we always want to think about, as parents, like you think about your kids, or we're taught to think about our kids, but there's no way that we can take care of our kids with the energy, with the focus, and being the role models that we want to be, if we're constantly not taking care of ourselves. And so I make
Totally.
sure I have my meals. Of course, I make sure I have my family's meals, or my husband and I work together for that. But I always make sure that I have my easy things taken care of, so that no matter what, I'm going to be feeling that high energy, that constant focus in my career. And I'm able to do things like go swimming with my children, and go hiking with them, and go parasailing with them. Those are the things that we get to do because I
I
prioritize it
love
for
it.
myself.
Yeah,
So
totally. I feel like that's a message sometimes we hear in society a lot, like take care of others, don't take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself is weak, it's not productive. You're not working, no pain, no gain. These are all messages that we
exactly.
hear. In terms of creating lifestyle shifts, you mentioned some great strategies. Like, I love how you threw out the motivation mindset. Like, just like, listen, you're not going to be motivated for a long period of time. You really need to focus on like A, making this feel good, but then B, making it, doing some stuff that becomes mindless. When someone is starting to make this lifestyle change, like, do you do you think like it's better to get one small mindless thing down? Like, if you bite off more than you can chew, you might end up like being motivated for a week, but then not end up with lasting habits after that motivation bubble pops, so to speak.
Yes, that's such a great question. Oh my God, Jared, you are really like helping people think this through because it's so true. Like to actually come up with your whole breakfast, lunch, and dinner snacks and all of that, that in itself is exhausting, especially in the beginning. And so what I recommend is that like always looking at this as a long-term solution. And so if you jump into things, you are going to get burnt out. You know, if you're looking to lose 20 pounds in 10 days, this is not the solution for you because it's not a crash diet. This is actually changing your lifestyle for now and 20 years and 40 years to come, you know, for the rest of your life. And so why not take a couple months to set this up? Like that's the perfect way to do it. That's how you create habits. Like you need to have a habit for 28 days, as is proven, to to be able to actually have it in your life. So you really want to make sure that you're doing it for about a month at least, and then focusing
At
on it,
least,
and then
yeah.
it becomes
If
a
not,
habit.
longer too.
If not
Yeah,
longer.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So what I recommend is really starting with that metabolism boosting morning routine, and at the least starting with your breakfast in the morning and really getting into a routine where you can find a breakfast that has protein in it, that has low sugar fruit or vegetables, and finding that and experimenting with different recipes, trying things that work for your schedule, because it doesn't happen like the first time. Like for example, the breakfast that I'm having may not work for everybody, especially if you have to hurry up and get out of the house really quickly, and you may need to try something like a protein smoothie, which is a really great option for people in the morning. You put everything in there, put protein powder, put some greens, you put a little bit of strawberries, and you could put a couple more things and then blend it up, and then you have your morning breakfast. But you want to try this out. You want to try the recipes so that you can get into this habit, and then you can learn what they are. And then all of a sudden, when things get busy, you're like, oh, I already know that recipe I love for smoothies. Oh my gosh, I have some time, so I'm going to make eggs today. And you just don't think about it anymore. And it becomes easier to live that lifestyle than to live the one you were living, where you were thinking about what to eat every single day and having that weigh on your brain. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so
Totally.
you do it
It's
step
a
by step.
you do it step by step. It's a little evolution. You try it, you test, you come back. I love the
Yes.
mindset of like it's an evolution. That's why I love like this whole eating thing. I see it as like a spiritual journey, like a self-growth journey. You know, health is a skill. Like you practice the skill, you get feedback, and then like your life expands in other ways. It's pretty exciting. But something that like I feel that people can make a mistake about is tying their success to body image. Like, as someone learns these new skills, maybe like they're learning these things, but for whatever reason, they don't see progress as rapidly as they hoped. And maybe they're seeing some progress, it's just not as rapidly as they hope. Like, how do you teach women and everyone really? But and I'm curious too, because you've mentioned yourself that like having a stomach or a certain body shape is important to you. But how do you not get like too caught up in body image?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, so it definitely is more about, I mean, that's part of the results of eating healthy. And I mean, that comes, but something else that is a bigger thing is this feeling of control over what you want. Like you wanted something and you're able to control it. You're not having things control you. Cake is not choosing you. You're choosing cake when you want
Mhm.
cake. But in terms of like more of like, so
That's
it's
awesome. I love what you said right there too. Like you
oh
are
yeah,
I feel like this stuff is so important that we meet our fundamental needs. Like one of our fundamental needs is for control. And
yeah, oh
and
yeah,
to be satisfied and to be satisfied and
yeah.
full and happy with our foods. I feel like that these are better long-term motivators.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the thing is, I mean, when you are treating your body right and you're eating well, the level of energy you have is unbeatable. I mean, you can actually do so much more in the world. You can help so many more people. You can contribute your skills
Mm,
so much more widely because you just have more energy in the day. Like, for example, at 2 o'clock, if you're having that feeling where you're having that afternoon lull, that sugar crash, and then you need sugar to pick you up, and then you're on this wave all afternoon, and you're like not able to focus, you just subtracted 3 hours from your day. 3 hours times five is 15 hours a week. And then we're talking about a lot of hours after over the course of the year. So when you actually are realizing that you are able to contribute more by giving your body good things, by treating your body well, then it's not really about the body. It's about like what kind of body do you need to live in to give yourself that strength and that focus, on a regular basis. And then finally, it is healthy. It is healthier to be at a healthy weight. Like when you're at an unhealthy weight, it's you're having more medical problems. You may be having pre-diabetes or diabetes. You're going to have higher blood pressure, higher cholesterol, etc. And those things are going to be very impactful in your quality of life very soon. And so it's really like body image is kind of like a lot of times the thing that gets many people motivated to start down this journey. It's the first thing, but then there's so many things that come from it. And when you are able to live in a healthy body, when you go to your doctor and all your levels are right, and your doctor's like, wow, what are you eating? Like, what are you doing? Tell me what you're doing. At that point, you're like, okay, I know that I'm living in my body in the right way. And as a result, I can do so many other things because I'm not constantly like stressed and worried about how to get healthier all the time. I'm just doing it.
yeah,
So,
that the extra energy to live your life, I feel is so important. I feel like that is what it comes down to, because like, I don't know, these different spiritual books, we all hear that we are not the body, like we're the soul, right? And I feel like
mhm.
the inner does manifest to the outer, but if you're just basing it on the outer, like success is based on how I look, then you're missing the soul aspect. And it's so important to put the soul first, like giving to other people, living your best life, having this energy. Last question before we well, two more questions before we wrap up. But the last one, like, what are body image and weight loss topics that you teach females and other people like to be proactive about, to step ahead of the game? Like, is what are some of those topics?
So, okay, so some of the topics that we talk about are how to make your how to really move into cooking and making meals or preparing meals if you don't want to cook that are just mindlessly healthy. So, like for example, I give lots of examples of quick and easy things to pick up from Trader Joe's that you can just take home and like literally open it and put it on a pan or put it in your oven and it's ready. And then these things are so tasty already because they're like so cool. They're from Trader Joe's. You add a little bit of a flavoring, a spice blend that I tell you about. So you make it flavorful, but you also make it easy. So that's really key. And I can share. I have 4 what I call slim down principles, and these are basic principles that when you follow them, everything falls into place when you keep these as a priority. And so the first one is protein more, like we talked about in the metabolism boosting morning routine, to prioritize protein in every single meal. If you are eating a meal without protein, even if you're a vegetarian, there's so many forms of vegetarian protein. There's so many forms of vegan protein that are not processed soy. There's so many things. And so when you understand what to add and what to blend, what to give yourself the protein boost, sometimes it's just a protein boost with like adding something. That's really key. The second one is tasty vegetables. So we always know that we're supposed to eat vegetables to be healthy, but the problem is that many of us don't like the taste of vegetables. And so that's where you really focus on making your vegetables tasty. And once they're tasty, it's so easy to add them. And a lot of times doing something like a blend of salt, pepper, and cumin, or lemon pepper with a little bit of salt, and roasting a tray of vegetables, which could be any vegetables: broccoli, asparagus, bell peppers, Brussels sprouts, really anything that is non-starchy. putting it into the oven at 400 degrees for 15 minutes, and you just made a side of vegetables for like 2 or 3 days for yourself and even for another person. So tasty vegetables is the second one. The third one is easy eating. And so easy eating is all about some of the examples that I said: make quick and easy meals, or make a bigger batch of a meal on Monday that can last you for the week. Or, finding these like tr- recipes that are just your go-to recipes. Like, make it easy, because when you have to think about things, you just end up going to convenience foods. It happens every time for everybody, or you order takeout, and you have to be very, very strict with your takeout to make it healthy. And then finally, the fourth one is to track your progress. And what that means is, I advocate, if you are on a weight loss journey, I do advocate that you have a scale, because then you're not imagining what's happening. You're using data. You're using data to track your progress, but you're not only using a scale, you're also using a measuring tape because sometimes the progress shows up in a measuring tape. It does not show up on the scale. And then the third one is a body fat analyzer, because then you're actually seeing, is your body fat going down? Sometimes it only shows up in one of these areas, and your body is transforming. And so it's to track your progress, and then and to do that in combination with these others, so that you actually are seeing yourself transform. You're not like hoping and wondering and then just leaving it for a couple weeks and then not knowing what happened in that time. So it keeps it more scientific that way, and that's a lot of times we need that data to make sure that we're reaching our goals. So those are the things we focus on.
I
Yeah.
love it. And if someone wanted to work with you, where are you on social media and online?
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, my website is masalabody.com. That's really the best place, because when you go to my website, I send you a free recipe book called 7 Spicy Recipes to Melt Away Your First 7 Pounds. And these are really delicious, indulgent, easy recipes that I personally have with my family, and we all love them. And then I will also send you some emails and send you some ways that you could get in touch with me, and that we could like begin to talk more. But I'm very active on Instagram, and my handle is at Masala Body. So I post stories every single day. I'm also on LinkedIn at Nagina Abdullah. And then I'm also on YouTube and Pinterest at Masala Body, and I am very active on those as well. So there's a lot of things there.
And the links will be in the show notes down below. Last question. What is your biggest eating enlightenment, your biggest shift in perspective?
My biggest shift in perspective is that food, it is the number one way that we get more energy and that we get more positivity. When you give your body the foods that empowers your body, you feel that enlightenment, you feel that energy, and that you feel like you're thriving in your body. And imagine waking up every day and thriving in your body, instead of feeling like, what do I do to feel better? How do I get started? Where do I go? Imagine you just wake up and that's how you feel every single day. Well, it's very, very possible when you eat the foods that empower your body. And it's right there. It's so available for all of us.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on, Nagina.
Thanks for having me, Jared.